It is April 1947. A new Bell X-1 transonic airplane is tested at Muroc Dry Lake in the Mojave Desert, north of Los Angeles. Attached to a Boeing B-29 bomber, the X-1 is carried to 25,000 feet. When the B-29 drops it, the X-1 will glide back to the lakebed without firing its rocket engine. The airplane has been designed to do something never before achieved. Within 7 months, it will fly faster than the speed of sound. This is one of 3 X-1 airplanes built by the Bell Aircraft Corporation to study the problems of flight at transonic and supersonic speeds. Of the 3, this is the best known because on October 14, 1947, Captain Charles Chuck Yeager, a test pilot with the United States Air Force, flew it faster than the speed of sound. The flight demolished the myth of a sound barrier and opened the way for supersonic flight.
During that time, the Air Force decided they would get the jump on the Navy and produce a supersonic airplane before the D-558. The rocket motor end of it, the assembly of 4, was already being fired for the Navy. And so they made what we call a pressure-fed version, in which you just use compressed gas to blow the propellants out of the tank and into the combustion chambers. And that became the engine for the X-1.
The engine was called the XLR-11. It needed development before it was ready to operate under flight conditions. Speed was gradually increased over a series of flights.
We'd run it on out to 0.9, 0.92 Mach number and got into buffeting. It was pretty heavy buffeting. And then at 0.94 Mach number, we're sitting there in pretty heavy buffeting. I rolled the airplane over and to pull 3 Gs at 9.4 Mach number, and we had no control of the airplane. The elevators were totally useless. And what we did then, we just rolled it out and turned off the rockets and came down and said, man, we got a real problem, because it had been predicted the X-1 would either pitch up or down in the region of the speed of sound, and then we couldn't control it. If we couldn't control it in that region, we were in trouble.
The X-1's horizontal stabilizer assembly could be moved to adjust the trim of the airplane.
Now, we had never used this horizontal stabilizer in flight because we just trimmed it out at 2 degrees nose down, left it there because that's where the airplane flew good. And that was where old Jack Ridley's brain came into effect. He said, after looking at a lot of the data, it showed that this shock wave, which had formed on the fixed part of the horizontal stabilizer, as we increased our Mach number, this shock wave moved back and sort of laying down. Well, at 9.4 Mach number, it was at the hinge point of the elevator, and we lost our elevator effectiveness. Well, Jack Ridley said, you know, if let's try to fly the airplane with the horizontal stabilizer, and if you think you're good enough to do it, it may save your tail.
5 young kids out in the desert. We rolled it into the hangar. Jackie went down to Lancaster and got a worm gear, and we fixed the elevator neutral, modified the tail a little bit so that Chuck could actually work the whole tail, which later became known as the flying tail.
Then we went up and tried to fly the airplane with the horizontal stabilizer, and that when we found out that we could, that solved all of our problems.
It was a tremendously important breakthrough, one that had a swift and profound effect on the design of high-performance aircraft, first in the United States and later around the world. As the X-1 project approached the speed of sound, there was discussion with NACA experts and academics about the hazard of exceeding Mach 1.
We had 4 PhDs descended on Muroc. Mr. Soule, Dr. Soule was one of them from Ames Laboratory. I believe Dr. Perkins from Princeton and Caltech and MIT. Real power. Well, Jackie Ridley took them on in the old tar paper operations shack at the blackboard. Chuck and I sat there and listened to them. And for a long period of time, they were going at it. At the end, it was a draw. Jackie couldn't convince them that we could do it, and they couldn't convince Jackie that we were going to kill Chuck.
The goal was to advance our Mach number every flight, go faster. That particular day was to go, we didn't know we were going to get above Mach 1. Number one, we didn't know if we could or not. So we had gotten out to about 0.94 or 95 Mach number on the previous flight, and we said, well, maybe we can squeeze it out to about 9.6 or 9.7.
Early in the morning of October 14th, the X-1 was loaded aboard the B-29 and fueled. Electronic equipment for monitoring the flight was checked. By now, the extremely low temperature of the fuel in the X-1 would have cold-soaked the airplane. When Chuck Yeager climbed into the cockpit, it would be like entering an icebox. But today he had extra discomfort. Last evening, something happened that could threaten the success and safety of Flight Number 9. As Yeager maneuvered his way down toward the cockpit of the X-1, he was in pain. The pain intensified as he bent to go through the cockpit door. Late the previous evening, he'd gone horseback riding in the desert with his wife Glennis. It was getting dark.
We'd gone out this gate. We were coming back, and I was in the lead running, and somebody had closed the gate, and it's dark, and the first thing, by the time you see the gates closed, you're almost on it, and it kind of peeled the horse around. He, as I say, he couldn't pull more than about 3 Gs, but the horse hit the fence and flipped off, and it threw me through the air, and I had landed on my right side and busted a couple of ribs, and it hurt, yes. I talked to Jack Ridley, and I said, Jack, I got a problem. I really hurt, and I don't know if I can get in the X-1 or not, because when you went down this ladder and had to hump over, bend double, and slide in this door, it was really painful.
The X-1's cockpit door had to be secured from the inside using the pilot's right hand. Chuck Yeager's right side was too painful to do it. Jack Ridley had a solution.
And he said, well, I can fix that. And he's got about a 10, 12-inch piece of broomstick, and I could use my left hand to stick this broomstick in the lever on the door and raise it with my left hand and lock it. And that's we decided that's the way I'd do it.
Yeager eased his way into the cockpit. Jack Ridley placed the door in position, and using the broom handle, Yeager locked it from the inside. Yeager went through the pre-flight check procedures and waited for the B-29 to reach drop altitude.
I could control my acceleration rate by angle of climb. If I wanted to go rather slow, I could steepen it up and just barely accelerate, or drop the nose and pick up speed fast. And I was sitting there at about 9.55, 9.6 indicated, just getting ready to set it. And the Mach meter jumped off the scale. When it did, all the buffeting stopped because then it's supersonic flow over the whole airplane. And it came as a complete surprise. And the old nose started dropping on the airplane, so I rolled in a little leading edge down on the horizontal stabilizer to keep the nose up. And I said, Jesus, yeah, it's a piece of cake. Yeah. And we held it out there for about 20 seconds. And then I turned off the 3 chambers and decelerated back through, and I got the Mach meter jumped back to 9.6. And that's what happened as the shock wave passed over the pitot head. Then we got true Mach number indicated then, and we were made, it went supersonic. We made the sonic boom. The shock wave was formed on the airplane.
Chuck, of course, landed out on a dry lake bed. And when you consider what he did, you know, the phenomenal feat that he did, there were no bands to meet him, no media, no television, of course, nothing. He was just out. We had to send a Jeep out there to tow the plane in, and he rode back on the wing of the X-1. When I landed, not all of them, but some of the PhDs were there, and they didn't want to talk to me. They wanted to talk to Jackie Ridley. And one of them tossed one of his books in a waste barrel that was there. Said, "Jackie, come on, we got to rewrite the book."
When we got the airplane above Mach 1, it surprised us, I think. But it really didn't impress us as much as it does now when you look back on it.
There was one major factor in the X-1's successful assault on the speed of sound.
The one thing, finding out that you needed a flying tail to operate in the region of speed of sound, was really the big breakthrough in getting an airplane above the speed of sound. And it really paid off. The X-1 was classified. You know, the data that we were getting from the X-1, we didn't share it with the rest of the world. We kept it to ourselves. We fed it to the aircraft industry. And that one thing, finding out about the flying tail with the X-1, it gave us a quantum leap on the rest of the world in aerodynamics.